Oh, that's where I left that. It's a weird place. Yo, what's up?
I was just wondering if I could ask you some questions about your newest movie. Wait, why are you in the closet?
Don't worry about that. Anyway, what were your questions again?
First, could you introduce yourself?
Sure, be happy to. Hello, my name is CCR Wallace, and I made the film School, a documentary, along with my team, Snook Studios.
Great, now question 1. How does your product use or challenge conventions, and how does it represent social groups or issues?
In our film, as a comedy mockumentary, it tends to uphold conventions. This can be seen in the depictions of the ISS students and staff. The students, for example, are shown to have been put in ISS for all sorts of exaggerated reasons and situations, and are referred to as criminals by the narrator. This goes along with how these students are depicted in real life in stereotypes, though it's a bit over-exaggerated, as I said before. Along with this, our ISS supervisor is your typical run-of-the-mill, old-fashioned, technology-hating teacher stereotype that you often see in school-related movies.
Isn't perpetuating stereotypes, bad?
That's a great point. That's very true. However, we're not using these stereotypes out of a lack of creativity or ignorance. Instead, we're making a parody of the media that uses these stereotypes in that way and the overuse they tend to get. In this way, it also actually brings attention to these stereotyped groups by pointing out just how ridiculous the stereotypes tend to be and how harmful they can be to the individuals. Our film takes these niches and exaggerates them for the sake of comedic and relatability value. Because obviously, there wouldn't be a person who's committed felonies in high school ISS, but it does garner a shock value that makes people laugh, so while our film does rely on stereotypes in certain areas, it's done so we can accomplish our genre. Speaking of our genre, that's another way we abide by conventions. High-key lighting, bright colors, upbeat music. These are all typical aspects of a comedy film, and ones we try and stay pretty loyal to. An example of this would be the lettering we use for our credits in the film, or the bright and chaotic colors of our actors' outfits that they're wearing.
Wait, how'd you do that?
These aspects and more exemplify our goal to abide by the comedy genre's conventions, which help us achieve the goal we want to reach in our film. Dang, paparazzi. Sorry, I gotta run. Can you text me the rest of the questions?
Sure.
Thanks, bye. They shouldn't recognize me now. I don't think they have very good vision. Alright, what's this next question? How does your product engage with audiences, and how would it be distributed as a real media text? Alright, this one's easy. Our group, being teenagers ourselves, wanted to create a film that would appeal to an audience of mostly teenagers and people around our age. We did this in a multitude of ways. For one, our film is set in a high school, and our characters are all high schoolers, except for the teacher, obviously. Along with this, we also tried to appeal to the humor of high schoolers, which, of course, we did by seeing what made us laugh. This includes the improvised inclusion of the very well-known 6'7" meme, though that Easter egg was actually created by my dad, the actor who played the teacher, rather than us, the teenagers. We also use relatability to draw our audience in, including the commonly shared aspects of school, such as the uptight, grumpy, old-fashioned teacher, as I mentioned before, that most students have encountered at some point. I know I have. Knowing that teenagers are our target audience, I think the best place we could distribute this film would be the place where it's already posted, YouTube. In fact, this is actually where I found some of the original inspiration for this film. So it proves that it's not an alien genre there. For our target audience, YouTube is the place that will have the greatest chances of engagement, as a teenager is much more likely to be scrolling through YouTube, spot our film, and click on it on their For You page, than happen across it on, say, Netflix, where browsing like that isn't nearly as common. Posting on YouTube is also completely free and requires no long screening or judgment process like it would on Netflix or Prime Video. And though we wouldn't receive any payments to help us go into production, we're already working on a really low budget anyway, so that wouldn't be that much of a difference. Plus, on YouTube, we can earn money from ads and also merch sales if we get popular enough, which could fund more projects in the future. Dang it, they got up again. Not just YouTube though, other social media platforms as well. Short-form content has become very popular in recent years among our target audience and others. We could utilize this by spreading promotional content, clips, trailers on apps like Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. This would increase the film's range and exposure and hopefully bring in a new audience from these sites to go watch the full movie on YouTube. I think they're finally gone. Oh, a text. How did your technology skills develop throughout this project? Right, the third question. I think we should ask Clover first. Thank you, that was very insightful. You're welcome. What about you, Gator? What do you think? Thank you. Well, with that wonderful advice, I think we can get to answering. When making our movie, me and my group mates all performed a great variety of roles in order to have an efficient process and a well-rounded result. Among these roles was camera work, something that I did quite a bit of. However, what we had as technology to accomplish this was limited to our phones and the camera app. So, not much. But that forced us to get creative to achieve the look we wanted. For example, in this scene, I had to manually zoom in while filming so the effect would be what we wanted. And in this scene, I had to find the exact right angle to film from so you wouldn't see me in the bush. I also learned how to utilize clip length and timing, like in this clip. Throughout the filming process, I got better at knowing how to plan and execute these things, and overall became very familiar with the mechanics of the camera and the phone. Honestly think I could film a panning wide shot in my sleep. And while I didn't do much editing, I still learned a lot about how to utilize CapCut's features and overcome its limitations. Becoming more familiar with the app also allowed our film's editing to improve between cuts, finding transitions, effects, and sound that elevated its quality. Now finally, the fourth question. How did you integrate technology into this project? Well, on the topic of technology, we used a lot of it. For hardware, clearly we used our phones. We also used our school laptops, and even briefly the touchscreen TV in the biology room. However, it was the software that allowed us to turn our ideas tangible. The camera app, of course, but also many other programs. In the background, you can see the recording of my drawing process, known as a speed paint, of Snook Studio's logo on the digital drawing app Procreate. Procreate is a very high quality and professional online drawing app, and though you have to pay for it, I had already purchased it long in advance for my personal art. Because of this, I was already quite familiar with the app's wide variety of features, which allowed me to make our company's unique and high-quality logo. In all, it took me 2 hours to make. Another example of the software we used was our editing app, CapCut. This free program is a great tool for those new to editing, like me and my group, with expansive tools and an easy-to-understand layout. It was with these tools that we made our film into what it is, as many of the transition, visual, and audio effects are ones CapCut provides. The audio features were especially helpful. Often, one of the biggest issues in media studies films is the audio being messy, or the dialogue being too quiet. CapCut offers a solution to this in the form of volume adjustments, which can be placed on separate clips. This allows us to balance the sounds and dialogue in our film with ease. And it also decreased the number of takes necessary while filming, since we didn't have to worry much about sound. Though these software programs played the biggest role for me, they weren't the only ones we used. Many others played a smaller part, but aided us nonetheless. There was MS Word on our laptops for planning and scripting, Messages for communication and scheduling, YouTube to post and publicize the final result, and many more. Overall, it's an understatement to say we use technology quite a bit. Well then, that's about it. The creation of my film and all the processes that go along with it has been a long and difficult journey, but one where each trial and tribulation has taught me something new that will stay with me for the rest of my academic career and beyond. It's just truly been a great experience, but I think that's all I have to say. I'm not going to hold you any longer. Thank you for listening about my film, School, a Documentary, and this is Sierra Wallace, signing off.